on Alabama Tonight.
A showdown at Kyle Field. Kyle Berger is in College Station, Texas tonight with a preview of the highly anticipated game between the Tigers and the Aggies. We'll also preview Alabama hosting Arkansas tomorrow night at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Plus, racing is back at Talladega.
I'm Tom Menino at Talladega Superspeedway. The drivers at the top of the chase standings obviously have the most to lose this weekend. Does that open the door for non-chase qualifying drivers to win this thing? Because Talladega is so unpredictable. We'll try to figure that out coming up.
And it's Friday night. That means it's time for our high school game of the week. Donette Halsey joins us from the big Shades Valley Vestavia Hills game. All that more coming up next on Alabama Tonight.
From Alabama's 13, this is Alabama Tonight.
Welcome in, everybody. We are well rested up. We better be, because we're all over the place all weekend long. Tuscaloosa, College Station, Texas, Talladega, high school football, you name it. We've got it. Let's get right into it right now. We're going to start with the big SEC West showdown between 24th ranked Auburn and number 7 Texas A&M. Kickoff set for 2:30 tomorrow on CBS. Last season, you might remember, the Aggies embarrassed Auburn 63-21, but the Tigers a different team than they were a year ago. Kyle Berger in College Station tonight. He has the preview of tomorrow's game in tonight's AuburnChannel.com update.
Auburn is 5-1. They're ranked in the top 25 for the first time in 2 years. They lead the SEC in rushing yards. They have the 3rd best scoring defense in the league. But is that enough to stop Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M? The Tigers arrived here at Kyle Field during the 4 o'clock hour. They held a final walkthrough on the field, no doubt trying to game plan a way to slow down reigning Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel, who averages nearly 450 yards per game with his arm and legs. Gus Malzahn spoke about the key to containing Manziel.
I think that's a big challenge. I think that's a question that each week, each defense, tries to scheme up. He finds a way to be effective. It looks like each week, no matter how you play him. Like I said, he's the best offensive player in college football. He's very good within their system, but he's probably even better once things break down. He's a great backyard player. He makes very good decisions and puts a lot of pressure on, on the defense.
And, of course, we all remember what happened in this matchup last year, 63-21 A&M, but we expect a much closer game this time around. Covering the Tigers in College Station, Kyle Berger, Alabama's 13 Sports.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much. We're going to have more on the Tigers and Aggies coming up in about 10 minutes. Kyle talks to Auburn beat writer Brandon Marcello. He's from Mail.com, and we'll get his take on tomorrow's game. Breaking news from the capstone tonight, Nick Saban has reinstated junior safety Clinton Dix following his 2-game suspension for accepting money over the summer from an assistant strength and conditioning coach. That comes as the top-ranked Tide gets ready to host struggling Arkansas. The Hogs have dropped 4 straight. Nick Saban, a perfect 6-0 against them since he arrived in Tuscaloosa back in 2007. Kickoff of that game tomorrow is going to be 6 o'clock. You can watch it on ESPN. More on the matchup in tonight's BamaChannel.com update. Both teams certainly like to run the ball. Arkansas second in the SEC in rushing, about 216 yards a game. Bama's 10th. One running back that both coaches have talked about this week is Tide freshman LT Tenpenny. He's an Arkansas native, chose the Tide over the Razorbacks. But Arkansas head coach Brett Bielema has noticed that Tenpenny is struggling for playing time in Bama's deep backfield.
There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with their offense that I'm watching. Big play people at the wide receiver. They're deep at running back. I remember extensively studying their running backs situation last year because I was trying to recruit one here, and he's not even listed in their top 4, So, again, they're very, very deep. They're very, very gifted. I know he had to have a number change because he was playing on special teams, so...
Right. Altie's done a really good job for us. He's played on several special teams and does a really good job in that regard. He's got to play some and plays fast and is explosive. And I just think that, with a lot of the freshmen, they have high expectations for what they want to accomplish. But I think the realization of what they need to do to improve every day to become complete players at their position is really critical to their development. I think he's done a good job of that, but I also think, as with most freshmen who are playing, they have a lot to learn.
Most of the other college teams around here are on a bye this week, but Birmingham Southern is playing, looking to rebound tomorrow after losing their last 2 games. Panthers will host Millsaps tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock at Battlefield. And it's homecoming week at Miles College. The Golden Bears also trying to bounce back after losing to Central State last Saturday. The Bears will host Kentucky State tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Albert J. Sloan Alumni Stadium. Week 8 of the high school football season, as you just saw, gets rolling all around the state at 7 o'clock. We're going to have scores and highlights for you tonight on Touchdown Friday at 10:20. Among the games we'll follow, Chelsea on the road at Pelham this evening. Also got Stanhope Elmore visiting undefeated Spain Park. Winona will take on Parker. Lee is in Pell City this evening. And our game of the week, a 6A matchup, undefeated Shades Valley on the road against 6-1 Vestavia Hills. That is where Donette Halsey is standing by with a preview.
Hey Don, we're here at Vestavia Hills where the band's getting warmed up, and so are the football players on the field right now for this 6A Class 6 matchup between 2 ranked teams. Vestavia Hills has 1 loss. They're still ranked above undefeated Shades Valley at number 4, and that 1 loss came from powerhouse Hoover. Vestavia Hills offense struggled in that game. The big stat was the 100 total yards the Bucks allowed Vestavia on 49 offensive snaps. The Rebels managed just 8 first downs and didn't complete a pass until their final drive of the game. That game was back on September 27th, and Coach Buddy Anderson says that loss has them ready for a win against Shades Valley tonight.
Just playing in a big game like that helps, gets you prepared to play in another game like that. So, hopefully we're going to correct some mistakes we made in that game, and hopefully we're a little bit better every day.
The winner of tonight's game could win the Class 6A Region 6 title. We'll have a complete wrap-up with highlights and reaction from the head coaches tonight at 10:20 on Touchdown Friday. In Vestavia, Donette Halsey, Alabama Tonight.
All right, Donna, thanks a lot. The green flag drops this weekend at Talladega. Coming up, Tom Menino previews this weekend's NASCAR action. Plus, more on tomorrow's Auburn Texas A&M game. Kyle Berger is going to talk with Auburn beat writer Brandon Marcello from AL.com. You're watching Alabama Tonight.
Today's top story on BamaChannel.com is sponsored by Alpha Insurance. Today's top story on AuburnChannel.com is sponsored by Alpha Insurance.
Don Hawes back on Alabama Tonight. Busy day at Talladega with the Sprint Cup drivers practicing for Sunday's Camping World RV Sales 500. Eric Almirola, the fastest in the first practice session today, went over 200 miles per hour. Jimmy Johnson, the top car in the second session, just under 200 miles per hour. Sunday's race drops at 1 o'clock. ESPN will carry the broadcast. Tom Menino has more from Talladega in tonight's NASCAR update.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. summed up preparing for a race at Talladega.
You make up your mind probably, hours before the race. I'm going to run hard every lap, or I'm going to take it easy. This is what I'm going to do. And you still, even after you got this plan that you've talked about and thought about, and maybe you spent time with your crew chief and your team, and maybe you spent a week on it. Who knows? You still feel as helpless as a guy with no plan at all.
So if the drivers feel relatively helpless at Talladega, that can't be a good feeling for overall points leader Matt Kenseth. He has a 4-point lead over Jimmy Johnson in the overall standings. Because this track is so unpredictable, does it open the door for non-chase qualifying drivers to win?
The folks that are in the chase have to be a little bit more conservative because they've got to get through this week, without a 30th place finish, without a DNF. But the guys that aren't in the chase, we can be a little bit more aggressive behind the wheel. Our crew chiefs, our team engineers can take a few more chances on pit road.
I don't know if there's a difference in how they approach it, but there's certainly going to be a difference in how they're feeling about this race. When you come in with a pretty good gap on the competition, like what Jimmy and what Matt have, the last thing you want to see on the schedule is Talladega, because you just know what the risk and the chances are of getting caught up in something, and that it can be completely out of your control.
No doubt Kenseth has the most to lose this weekend at Talladega, but it doesn't seem to bother him very much.
If you have a bad week, any week, that's going to hurt, and your chances of having a bad race here are probably a little bit higher, than other tracks because you can get caught up and stuff.
The stats certainly indicate non-chase drivers have a better chance to win here. A non-chase qualifying driver has won the fall race at Talladega 4 times. That's more than any other chase track. At Talladega Superspeedway, Tom Menino, Alabama Tonight.
All right, Tom, thank you. Should be a lot of fun out there this weekend. Back to tomorrow's big showdown in College Station between number 24 Auburn and 7th-ranked Texas A&M. Kyle Berger met up with Auburn beat writer Brandon Marcello from AL.com before they left for Texas to get his take on the Tigers and the Aggies.
All right, Brandon, Auburn, Texas A&M, a lot of points expected to be scored in this one. For Auburn, most of them will probably be on the ground. Talk about the advantage of having this ground game Auburn has.
It's interesting. A lot of coaches want to talk about whether this is going to be a game that you should just play your tempo offense, go fast. But I tend to think maybe Auburn's going to go a little bit slower in the first half, try to keep the ball out of Johnny Manziel's hands just because of that. They've got that strong running game. And I expect Auburn maybe to kind of try and slow things down. With that said, I think their very first drive, as they've shown all year, they're going to go up-tempo, try to score real quick, and then after that, put the pressure on them. And when they're back on offense, if they have a 7-point lead even, try to slow things down and establish a run game.
Now you mentioned Johnny Manziel. Does it seem like he's gotten better from his Heisman Trophy season?
I think so. I mean, his stats aren't necessarily right up there, but I think he's better because of his defense hasn't been doing that very well. I think for the very fact that he's so consistent. He hasn't had an off game all season yet. He did last year early on, 2 games, Florida and LSU. This year, not at all. I mean, the guy is averaging more yards than 7 to 8 other SEC teams in SEC games right now total. It's incredible what he's doing. He's going to get his yards. I mean, Gus Malzahn, Ellis Johnson, defensive coordinator at Auburn, they've made no bones about it. They know he's going to get yards. He's going to get big plays. They just have to move on and respond and see if they can keep up the pace and hopefully get maybe a turnover or 2 in the red zone, which if Manziel has a weakness this season, it's in the red zone.
That's right, and I guess the key is to keep him off the field is the big thing. And for Auburn, as their quarterback situation revolves around, is Nick Marshall's been named the starter. Do you see a role for Jeremy Johnson, who played particularly well last game?
I think so. I don't know if it'll be in this game, though. I think it's very possible that you could see Jeremy Johnson out there. In what capacity, I don't know. I don't know if he's your Wildcat type guy who's going to run the ball a lot, but I do think that there's a possibility he'll play. There's a possibility you might see Kyle Frazier at quarterback running Wildcat. You might see Cameron Artis-Payne. I think that the coaching staff's done a very good job of trying to keep defensive coordinators on their heels, and they're having to prepare for a lot of things, and it's maybe taking away from some things that they might not see in this game or might see. I mean, they've played 5 different players at quarterback, including 4 quarterbacks, so it's possible, but I think more than anything, it gives Auburn a little bit of advantage because they're giving defenses something to think about.
Now, Gus Malzahn also mentioned that A&M is more than just Johnny Manziel. They have some other playmakers, particularly at wide receiver. Auburn's been burned with some big plays and a lot of yards they give up. Talk about how containing Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is legit. I mean, that guy can do anything. He kind of, I wouldn't say an off game, but he didn't have a great game against Ole Miss. I don't necessarily know how you attack the receivers just because you have to worry about Manziel. A lot of teams try and use press coverage. I don't know if Auburn can do that. But the good thing is that the strength of the defense right now for Auburn is their secondary and those cornerbacks. So you might see them place a lot of man, which Ellis Johnson's really based on doing, and you might see some press. I think that Auburn, more than anything, is probably going to try and mix things up to maybe try to confuse Johnny Manziel, as silly as that sounds because it's so tough, but also kind of get those receivers out of their own rhythm. I think more than anything, that might be the way to attack A&M is to get the receivers out of rhythm, so Manziel's got to try and force things.
And A&M's last game was against Ole Miss. That's, of course, buddies. Yeah. Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn, they're really tight. They do text message back and forth. Gus didn't really give us much insight on a conversation with Hugh Freeze, but what did Hugh Freeze say about A&M?
Hugh Freeze says they've talked quite a bit over the last two weeks. He said one of the conversations has been about Johnny Manziel, and Hugh Freeze, in fact, said, here's my message to Gus, good luck against Manziel. Really, there's not a great way to stop him, but Hugh Freeze, I thought, made a key point, and that was in the first half, we try to be slow and methodical on offense, which goes against the grain for what they're used to doing at Ole Miss, which has a very similar offense to Auburn. And I think that it worked in that game, and that's a very good reason why I think Malzahn might take a page from that Ole Miss playbook, so to speak, and slow things down the first half.
And with all that being said, is there a map that you see that Auburn can somehow pull an upset at 14-point underdogs?
The way Ole Miss almost did it last season, and not necessarily this season, was forcing turnovers. They somehow got turnovers Auburn's got to do that. Also, Auburn just can't turn the ball over, and they've had problems with that on offense, fumbling the ball, throwing interceptions. Nick Marshall's got to come back and not throw interceptions. He's got to play a perfect game. Defensively, they've got to step up in the red zone. I think they're going to give up yards. They've done all season, but the defense has been very good in the red zone. They're third in the SEC in scoring defense, and that's because in the red zone, which are tied for second, by the way, in the SEC, it's red zone defense. And if they can get Manziel to make mistakes, as he's been doing every now and again in the red zone, I think Auburn's got a chance.
All right, Brandon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, lots more to come here on Alabama Tonight, including our play of the day, plus a look at the game day forecast. You're watching Alabama Tonight.
Alabama Tonight's play of the day is sponsored by Little Caesars, home of the hot and ready pizza.
Our play of the day comes from last night's Miami, North Carolina college football game. The Hurricanes unbeaten. Tar Heels trying a 47-yard field goal here. But take a look. The Hurricanes block it. Goes right to Ladarius Gunner and off to the races. 67 yards for the touchdowns. And Miami needed all of the points as they came from behind to win it 27-23 to stay unbeaten. Well, getting a little chilly outside, no doubt about that. What does that mean for all the football and the racing this weekend? Let's get a check of our game day forecast with Richard Jacks. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Don. Weather looks great tonight, beginning the weekend with high school football games. Temperatures dropping down into the low 60s here in the next hour or so, if they're not already there. Then down into the upper 50s for the second half of the game, becoming chilly with lots of clouds around. All right, let's talk about the college games for tomorrow. The weather looks overall nice here at home and also for Texas for the Auburn game. Looking at interceptor radar, a few sprinkles showing up to our south. I think the rain will stay to our south, and that means great news both for us and for the folks in Texas for the Auburn game. 2:30 kickoff. Partly cloudy skies, 71 down to 65. Nice weather in Texas. Also here at home, a few scattered clouds. 70 degrees for kickoff, 6 o'clock for Alabama. For the second half of the game, becoming chilly, 54 degrees with mostly clear sky. So cool by the fourth quarter. Heading to Talladega tomorrow or Sunday, just about perfect weather. There'll be more clouds around tomorrow versus Sunday, but still nice weather. High about 75, then dropping down to 74 for the high temperature on Sunday. No rainfall expected either day. Should be nice weather to enjoy the outdoors. Some sunshine, especially on Sunday. And by the way, it's going to drop down in the 40s for many of us, both tomorrow night and Sunday night. So a couple of cool mornings coming up. Back over to Don Haas.
All right, Richard, thank you very much. We're going to be back to wrap things up. As we go to break, take a look at where and when you can watch the SEC football games this weekend. You're watching Alabama Tonight. Final moments of Alabama Tonight. We always invite you to be part of the conversation with us. Search Alabama Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. And that will do it for us this evening. Join us again Monday. We're going to recap all the crazy stuff going on this weekend, from Tuscaloosa to College Station to Talladega. Plus, next week is Bama-Tennessee week. That should be a lot of fun. We'll preview that game with former Vols tight end Ed Butler. He'll be here in the studio. We leave you tonight with a little video to get you ready for tomorrow's Auburn-Texas A&M showdown at College Station. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Manziel rolling to throw, puts the brakes on and comes back the other way, and now he's going to run to the corner. Touchdown!
He's almost like watching a video game sometimes with the stuff he does, but the human side, his competitiveness, his toughness, that's what really stands out to me. I mean, he's an extremely mentally and physically tough individual, and he plays with that edge.
Second down. They'll fake the pass, Statue of Liberty, hand off to Corey Brown. Right in. He's got the first down and more. 40, 30, 25, 20. He's got a speed by everybody.
They're 5-1.
You want to elaborate on that?
And they're ranked 24th in the country. So that's very different than the team we played last year.